So our today's session on Verilog HDL, and let me give introduction myself. Dr. Asmuk P. Koringa. I am working as an assistant professor in AC department in the Hosting Institute, Government Engineering College, Rajkot. Right. Uh, so this is about my introduction. Now let's start today's session on a Verilog HDL. So before starting, let me tell you what is the prerequisite to learn this. So I hope you have some basic knowledge of the C language as well as digital design. So to learn any hardware description language, we should have the knowledge of digital design because it is a language to implement digital systems. So if we know the digital system how it works, then we can write the program right easily. Now, as we know, uh, if you see a VLSI design flow. So if we see in the VLSI design flow, it starts with the systems specification, then system specification, it converted into the architectural design, right? So in architectural design, in previously when there was not invented the HDL, the architectural design is implemented using different discrete logic ICs and like that. But for today's complex design, it's not even possible to be implement in that without any language, right? So here HDL. There are two types of HDL. One is the Verilog HDL and another is the VHDL. Right. So this is HDL is used to convert that architecture design. It is right in a form of a some program. So it through some algorithm that have the also have the behavior abstraction level. So we can have a algorithmic way like as we are implementing using any programming language. So at this, so it convert the architecture into the RTL design, right? As yesterday already explained what is the RTL, why we are calling is an RTL, right? So it is implement the design in a RTL through the HDL language. Another use of HDL, also this HDL language is used for the functional verification. So verification guy also using the same language to for the verification of the design, right? So both the RTL designer team as well as the functional verification, both the guy are used HDL hardware description language. Then if we see once our design is ready in a form of RTL and once we successfully functionally verified, right, then tool will convert into a gate level netlist through the synthesis, right? Through the synthesis, the tool, an EDA tool, it convert the our RTL design into a gate level netlist, right? Through some mapping of the library, right? Also depend on the technology. So our today's next session, session number 5, it is on the synthesis. So you'll learn the synthesis, right? Then afterward, if you see, once we have a synthesized the gate level netlist is ready, then the afterward task is it is called a physical design. So in a physical design, if you see, first task in a physical design is to a planning. That is first plan is to planning, then the placement, and then the routing. So as well as the clock tree synthesis, all the three tasks is performed in a physical design. Once we have the physical design is ready, so our next day, as on the Thursday, we are going have a 3 sessions. Each session is a 2 hour duration. So in that session, we'll going to cover the entire physical design flow, and you will happy to know the session expert are from the industry. So as we know, the physical design tool are so costly in a VLSI designing, right? EDA tools are available freely, or we can have some Quartus 2 or Model Sim or EasyLite tools that on which we can practice at our institute, right? So we are doing very well the RTL, but the physical design tool are very much costly, and that can be afforded by the industry, those who have a business, or some very good institute that have the physical design tool, right? So we have a call the expert for this physical design flow. So in physical design flow, we have three session. One is the on the for planning and the placement. Second session on the basically on the routing and clock tree synthesis, and the last session on the Thursday on a design sign off, right? So this design sign off is the last verification before sending to a fabrication lab, before sending the GDF file for the fabrication to the lab. So in the design sign off, main three tasks: one is the DRC, LVS, and ERC. So you will learn in that session. So this entire FDP, if you see, we have planned such a way that it covered from the system specification to the sign off, right? So what the main part in a VLSI design flow, right? Let's see what is a Verilog. So Verilog is a hardware description language, right? It is used to describe a digital hardware, right? There are two major HDL, Verilog and the VHDL. VHDL mostly used European country, and the rest of country are using the Verilog, or most of industry are using the Verilog. So and to from the learn point of view, Verilog is easy compared to the VHDL, right? VHDL is some slight lower language compared to a Verilog. If you see in the syntax term point of view, right? So it is Verilog is more user friendly compared to a VHDL, and it is more like toward the C language. So those who have a very good command on the C, they also can learn the Verilog. If you have some digital design knowledge, then it make a very fantastic task. Verilog HDL, it's have both behavior as well as the structural language. So behavioral means we can have some algorithm or a sequential some procedural in which inside that procedural the statement run in a sequential. So it is some algorithms we can have in a behavior abstraction level, and also this language is structurally, right? So we can call any lower module and to construct a complex module. So it's have a structural language. It is a case sensitive. Be remember this Verilog is a case sensitive, but the VHDL is a case insensitive. Verilog is a case sensitive language, and VHDL is a case insensitive language. So Verilog is a case sensitive language. So if you give the name, any name, suppose all the most of the keyword in a Verilog are in a lower case, right? So modules, then the always big initial, all are the reserved keyword are in a lower case, and it is a case sensitive. And third is the Verilog model of Verilog HDL can be described in both design as well as in a component. So we can have any module that have that instance of the others HDL module as well as this component, right? So it can also define the connection of component in the design. Let's start before learning the Verilog. Let's see about the history, right? As I am a PhD as a philosopher, so I like first to learn about the history of any topic. And as if I see in the participant, most of participants have doctorate participants, they also will like to learn the history, right? The philosopher. So history about this Verilog is Verilog was invented by the Phil Morley and the Prabhu Gall around in 1983-84. It is my birth year. So around in 1983-84, the Verilog was invented by these two scientists. in the gateway design automation, at the level of gateway design automation. Later on, this gateway design automation was purchased by the Cadence Design Systems, as we have, this is the non EDA manufactured EDA tool manufactured this company Cadence Design Systems in a 1990. Then Verilog, originally Verilog was intended for to describe and the simulation purpose only, right? To describe the hardware as well as for to support the simulation. Later on, the synthesis is added in Verilog, right? After the Cadence has transferred the Verilog into the public domain, and it is called an Open Verilog Internationals. Then after the Verilog was later submitted to the IEEE, and first IEEE standard of Verilog, it is a IEEE standard of 1364 to 1995, commonly referred as the Verilog 95. It is a IEEE standard of 1364 to the 1995. Then in 2001, Verilog 1995, it extension in a Verilog 2001. A new name is given and also submitted for the IEEE, and the new IEEE standard given this extension of this Verilog 95 in a 2001. It is called a 1364 to 2001 IEEE standard, correct? Formerly known as Verilog 2001. And Verilog 2000 is so popular, and most of the EDA tool software packages support this Verilog 2001. Right. Today, all the EDA developer company are using the Verilog 2001 module. Later on in 2005, it's some minor correction. It added in a 2000 variant of Verilog 2001, right? Then in Verilog 2005, some features of verification is added, and that it is called as system Verilog. So system Verilog, it is a extension of the Verilog 2005 with the adding the some features of capability of design verification. So system Verilog, it is have capable for the verification as well as it is used for the design, right? So system Verilog, it can use for both design as well as for the verification. Now, as of now, system Verilog is so popular in a verifications. As on the 2009, system Verilog and Verilog language standard are merged, and it is a system Verilog 2009, and its corresponding IEEE standard is 1800 to the 2009. The advent of hardware verification language such as OpenVera, System C, Superlog are the co-design. It is Superlog by the co-design automation industry. So this is a history of Verilog HDL. Right. Now we'll see first of all why we should have to learn the HDL and what is the importance of HDL. So HDL, it is used to at a design level without the bothering about the how the design is implement at the physical level. So this HDL is at the higher abstraction level, right? So when we have first step it to convert the architecture that into a language, at that time not need to bother about how this design is going to implement using which fabrication technology. So irrespective of fabrication technology, we can design, and later on we can later on we can use any technology to implement this design, right? As well as another why the importance of HDL is it is also used in a functional verification. So two main tasks in a designing, one is once we have the specification, then From the specification, RTL designer it used the HDL and this it prepared a design, and parallelly verification guys, there are different method of verification either in black box or a white box approach. In a black box approach, the verification engineers parallelly developed a test bench based on the specifications, and it prepared a test bench, and later on the whatever the design it is fed as a DUT in a top module and it will be tested. So for to develop the design as well as to develop the test bench, HDL is used, right? So this is another importance of HDL. Designing which HDL is analogous to the any computer language. So this is another advantage to design any complex digital design using a programming language rather than any conventional methods. If we see the design methodology, there are two types of design methodology based on the design hierarchy and based on abstraction, right? So let's see, based on design hierarchy, it are two types of design methodology. Based on design hierarchy, one is the top-down design methodology, and another is the bottom-up design methodology. So name suggests top-down design methodology. So name suggests any system it divide into a different sub-block if it's possible, and block we have to divide the sub-block such a way that it have some modular and locality, right? So all the sub-block must be a similar sub-block, so it will make easy we can use design for the multiple time, right? So all the sub-block must be if possible a similar sub-block, it divide into a similar sub-block, and again this sub-block is divided into the sub-block, and it is divided until a lip cell, right? So lip cell it is called a lowest block, it cannot be divided further, it is called a lip cell. So in a top-down design methodology, system is divided into the sub-block for the it make easy to implement, the purpose is to easy to implement. So complex design is divided into the different sub-block, and this again sub-block is divided into the design sub-block until up to the lip cell, and lip cell is the block, it cannot be further divided. And in bottom-up design methodology, so again the name is suggesting how in bottom-up design methodology work. So in bottom-up design methodology, any layout, so any layout by combining the layout to prepare a transistor, from the transistor to prepare a logic gate, from the logic gate we prepared some standard cell of D flip-flops, marks, some different standard cell. So bottom-up design methodology normally used at a physical design, which from to prepare a standard cell. And in actual designing, both the types of methodology, combination of both the types of methodology is used, right? So suppose let's take the example of 4-bit carry adder. Suppose if you want to design a 4-bit carry adder, so where to use a top-down design methodology and when to use a bottom-up design methodology, let's see step by step. So we know a 4-bit ripple carry adder can design using a T flip-flops, right? Using a T flip-flops. Suppose here we want to design a 4-bit, so we require such 4 T flip-flops. And again we know T flip-flops can be designed using the D flip-flops, right? So ripple carry adder, we require such 4 T flip-flop, and we know T flip-flop can design using a D flip-flops and 1 inverter gate, right? So this is our lip cell, it is a lowest block. Now we cannot divide it further, we can divide the D flip-flops that can be implemented using the that NOR gate and like that, but normally a D flip-flops available in a standard cell. So in a standard cell based design, up to the D flip-flop or inverter, such are these or the box, such are the standard cell, right? So standard cell is designed using the bottom up approach, and using the standard cell we can design any we can design any like this 4-bit ripple carry adder using the top-down approach, right? So let's see step-by-step designing of this 4-bit ripple carry adder to understand how the combination of top-down design methodology and the bottom-up design methodology is used in a real designing of any digital systems. So we know the T flip-flop block can construct using a one D flip-flops and using a one inverter, right? Now, so this is our D flip-flop block. It is our one leaf cell, and another leaf cell is this inverter, right? So let's see ripple carry counter designing the in a first of all it use the instance of the different T flip-flops. Suppose in this we have seen here we required such 4 T flip-flops to construct the 4-bit 4-bit ripple carry adder. So using a Verilog, how it can be write the program. So suppose we have assume we have a T flip-flop block is ready. T flip-flop instance, if we have ready, we can have we can use that using the instantiate that block in a higher module. So top module. So this is module. So this is module. I will going to explain the detailed programming structure of this Verilog, but for this example purpose, let's try to understand it very quickly. So in module name, and then we have to declare the different port list, right? Which is coming out from this module. So here in a designing of a 4-bit counter, we have one input is clock and another input is reset. If you want to reset it synchronously or asynchronously, and we have the 4-bit of output, right? So these are the port. So here we have 3 ports in the 4-bit ripple carry counter, and this port list. Then we have to declare the which port which port is the output port and which are the input ports. So in here the Q is output port and it is a bus of a 4-bit. So this is how to declare the vectors in a Verilog. Also we'll going to see in this presentation detail. Then clock and reset are the input pins. Now here I want to show how we can use the top-down methodology to be construct a complex design. So we have the T flip-flop is ready. We can use that T flip-flop by instantiate the module. So we have used such 4 T flip-flops to make the 4-bit ripple carry adder, right? Then if you see the T flip-flop module, now T flip-flop it's construct using one D flip-flops. So here the D flip-flop is instantiate and one NOT gate. So some primitives are available in a Verilog. Directly we can use that gate primitives. So NOT is one of the gate primitives. So whatever will be right in these gate primitives, so D and Q, right? So it is a one gate primitive. So using these D flip-flops and NOT gate, we can construct the T flip-flops. So this is one module of T flip-flops. Again, the D flip-flop instance we have for that one module D flip-flops, and it is implemented using the behavior architecture language. So it is a sequential block in a digital design. So it depends on the clock. So whenever have the positive edge of clock or the positive edge of reset, it check if it's have a reset, it assign the Q to the value 0. If it's a not in reset and have the positive as of clock, it assign whatever in a D into the Q. So it is very simple, and we can use that leaf cell module to construct the 4-bit ripple carry adder. So this methodology, it is called a top-down design methodology. Now to design D flip-flops and to design a NOT gate. So we know in a NOT gate, it is inside the NOT gate. It is designed using if you have a CMOS NOT gate, then it's a inside it is a one P MOSFET and one N MOSFET, right? So this is a block of one NOT gate, right? So it is designed using the P MOSFET and N MOSFET. Now we know the N MOSFET and P MOSFET that construct using the layout, right? So we have, suppose this is a, might be those who have used the microwind or any layout, they know how to look like the layout in a top view. I am drawing the top view layout. So for the N MOSFET, we have it N plus and the polysilicon, right? So it is construct a N MOSFET. Similar, we have P MOSFET. So this is some layers of material, or we can say a layout. So using the layout, we are constructing the device. Using the device, we construct some circuit, and that circuit for the logic gate. So this approach, it is an bottom-up approach. So from the layout, we are constructing any standard cell. So bottom-up approach is used to construct a standard cell. So hope it is cleared. Combination of both the approach is used in a design any digital system. To construct the lip cell, bottom-up approach is used, and to construct a that high level block using the lower level modules, top down approach is used. If you see at a abstraction level, another method is based on abstraction level. So in a Verilog, it support the 4 types of abstraction level: behavior level abstraction, data flow level abstraction, gate level abstraction, and the switch level abstraction. So as the in its sequence, it's have the complexity or a level of abstraction. So behavioral is a higher abstraction level in a Verilog. So in behavior abstraction level, we can implement the design in form of some algorithm, right? Or similar like some programming language, which have input and output, and here some algorithm is implement which have a relation of input and output based on the specification. So behavior abstraction level is a highest abstraction level of an Verilog. Data flow level, in data flow, if he knows how the data flow from one register to another, right? Or our design is ready in a form of Boolean equations, then data flow, using the data flow, it is easy to that write the Verilog code. So data flow is used for up to some complexity of design. For higher complex design, we cannot, it is very complex to implement using the data flow. Then we have a gate level abstraction. So if our design in a form of structure is ready, we know the structure of the our design, right? Suppose if you want to do the ending of A and B, and let's say here one signal Y, and we want to ending ORing of C and D, and let's say here that internal wire or net, it is Y2, and this is our final output, right? So this is, if we know our design, it is in a form of logic gate netlist, right? So that we can be implement easily using the gate level abstraction, right? So it is very easy, and in gate level, in a Verilog, all the logic gate have its primitive, and that name of that primitive itself is the spelling of that logic gate. Suppose here it is an AND gate, so that can be write AND, that is the primitive of AND gate. Any label we can specify here, let's say label 1, and whatever we'll write in the first, it will take as an output. So we want to assign the AND gate output to the Y1, so it is a Y1, and whatever we will write the second, third and fourth, whatever. So here I have specified only the 3, so it take one as an first one always as an output, and rest of one are the input. So if you write the two variable, then it's have a 2 input AND gate. If you write comma is C, then it have the 3 input AND gate, right? Then we want to have a OR gate. So it is simple OR any label, then output of OR we want to assign to the net Y2, and input of OR are C and D. So it will perform a OR operation. Now we want to assign our output Y, it is an ORing of Y1 and Y2. So I can write ORing of Y1 and Y2. So this is simple module architecture in a gate level to implement this design. And last is the switch level. So in a switch level, implement it using the device, right? Directly use the device NMOS and PMOS to construct the circuit of any logic gate or a design. And in a gate level, lowest module, it is a logic gate. And in data flow, we have if the Boolean a design in a form of a Boolean equation, or we know the data how it transfer from one register to another register. Data flow it is used, and behavior it is a higher level abstraction, and it is used the algorithm to implement the design. So as we can see here, behavior level, we have some blocking or non-blocking or algorithm level design, which have the initial and that always procedural, which we'll see later on. Data flow, if we have the design in a form of Boolean equation through the assign statement, we can assign any operator, we can apply any operator on the operand. In a gate level, it's have as we have seen this example, implement using the basic logic gate, and in switch level, it's have a device to be implemented. Now, very much important the programming structure of a Verilog, right? So in a programming structure, it is have a module. It is it is called it defined as a set of modules, and it also we have a interface the different module to construct the higher complex design. So it's have a two different module, one for the DUT, which our RTL design, and one for the test bench. So test bench, it is also called a top level module. So inside the test bench, we have a RTL design that we want to test or we want to verify. So it is also called a DUT, design under test. So in a this is a top level module. Also it is called a test bench, right? And this is our design. So in a test bench, so suppose we are designing a half header. So we know in a half header, the DUT of half header DUT, it's have a two input and it's have a two output, S and C. Let me call as an S and C. So here I have a two input. It is A and another input B, and it's have a output S and another output C, right? So in a top level, in a test bench, we have to have what are the input we have in form of registers, and that we have to apply by generating a different test pattern. So whatever the test bench variable, it is mapped with this DUT, and whatever the generated, this also map with the that as a in a wire or net in a test bench module. So it is a top level module. It's having behavioral as well as in a structural architecture language. This is very much important. This is very much important structure of any Verilog module. So it start with the module keyword in a lower case. Then we have to specify any module name. So when we specified the module name, we have to keep three things in mind. First is module name should not be any keyword, reserved keyword. We cannot use any reserved keyword of Verilog as a module. So what are the reserved keywords? So once you learn the Verilog, you will be see what are the different reserved keyword: begin, always, module, case, that end module, that all are the reserved keywords. We cannot use the reserved keyword as a to give the module name. Secondly, this module name, it should not start with any number. It must be start with any alphabet. Third things, module name must be a single word. Module name must be any single word. Suppose if you have two words, that you can combine through the underscore, but must be any single word. You cannot write, suppose I have the half header module, I cannot write like an half and space and header. So it is have a two word, right? So I can write under half underscore header, or I can combine half header like that. So module name must be a single word. So the three things you have to remember when we specified module name of any Verilog HD. Then in a bracket we have to specify the port list, right? So if you are implementing a half header, we know in a half header it's have the XORing of A and B, which is nothing but our sum output, and the ending of A and B, it is our carry output, and have the two input. And we know we have cleared the direction of port, right? So we want to use A and B port as an input direction and S and C as an output. So in a port list, you have to specify whatever the coming out from this module. So this is why module of half header, right? This is a module of half header. So how many pins coming out from this module? That we have to specify in a port list. So an external word can understand, that cannot see what is the inside written in the module. They can see only what are the pins coming from the out and what are the input and output port. So it can be interface, and we have a structural that can be used the module and can be interfaced with the another module at a hierarchy type of language, right? So you have to specify that port name of the port list here with the separation with the comma. So here parallelly you can see the example of an half header. Then once we have its complete module name and port list, then next task is to declare the port declarations. So port declaration means whatever the port we have declared, we want to use that port as an input port or output port or a in-out port. There are three types of port support in a Verilog. Input port, from the port we can only read the data. Output port, the port in which we can write the data, and in-out port is the bidirectional port. So Verilog support the three port, and the keyword to specified is the spelling of input, output, and in-out, right? So out of this port, so if you see the example in a half header, we want to use A and B are our input ports. So I define input and the port name A comma B, and sum and carry our output port. So output sum and carry, right? So this is the port declaration. This is a port declaration. Then next task is a variable declaration. Yes. Yeah. So next is to declare the variable. Variable means internally if we want to use any jumper, then we can declare as a variable, but in this half header design we do not require any internal signals. Suppose in a previous we have seen one example, it is ending of A and B, we have declared here the Y, and the ORing of C and D we have a call that it is Y2, and then we have a ORing that 2 to produce the Y. So here the Y1 and Y2 are the variable that is a type of res as well as is a type of wire. That also we'll see in this presentation, what the difference between the res and the wire, when to use the res, when to use the wire. So but in this design there is no any variable, so this space that I have not declared any here any variable. Once the variable declaration, the description of behavior. Description of behavior means internal architectures inside this box, inside the module, right? So that is the description of behavior. So that description of behavior we can describe using the four types of abstraction level, and using any abstraction level, either using the behavior abstraction level, data flow abstraction level, switch gate level abstraction level, and the switch abstraction level, right? So here in example it is implemented using the data flow abstraction level. So in a data flow abstraction level, this is the description of the internal design. So in internally we want a sum, we want to do a XORing of A and B. So here assign it is for the data flow, and it will assign to sum using the equal as an assignment operator, and A, and this is the bitwise XORing operator, right? So through this A and B is a bitwise XORing, and result is assigned to a sum. Similar, another thing we want to do in this architecture, it is a implementation of a AND gate. So carry, it's the ending of the two input port A and B. So here this sign, it is for a bitwise AND sign, and we can assign A ending B to the carry. So once the behavior of description is over, we have also a task and function also we can write. Suppose some that task we want to do the repeatedly. So not need to write that that sub module multiple times in the description of behavior. Instead of that, we can write in a task that, and every time we just call the task, so it will execute, right? So it's have a also like in a C language, it's also here have a task and the function for to make easy programming. Then once it's over, then AND module. So this is the simple programming structure of any module, right? If you face any questions any times, you can unmute your mic and you can ask the questions. I cannot see.
Very good morning, sir. Please again explain RAGE and OR.
Yeah, so we have a slide on it, RAGE and wire. So don't worry. Okay. I will be explaining in detail. We have a slide on it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello,
Any
sir.
more questions?
Sir, can you explain what is structural model exactly?
Yes, that also whatever the example we have taken, if you see, we have taken to implement a 4-bit ripple carry adder using the 4 T flip-flops, right? So by instanting this 4 T flip-flops to construct a 4-bit ripple carry adder, it is called a structural language. Also we have also we can use the gate primitives available, and we can construct the half adder, full adder like that. Also we have an example on this in the coming slide. Any more questions?
Yes, sir.
Sir, in-out declaration, where it will be used?
What, madam? I'm not. Yes,
In-out.
I'm not getting.
In-out, sir, in-out.
In-out. Yeah, in-out is for the bidirectional. Sometimes we want some port, we want to declare the bidirectional, means from this module. Suppose I have a 2 module, M1 and M2. And I want to pass the data from M1 to M2, as well as I want to read the data from M2 to M1. So in that times, I want the bus which interface between the M1 and M2, it should be a bidirectional. So we can write the data on it. Also, we can read the data from that bus or that port. So at that time, we need to be declared as a in-out. So for the in a Verilog, it declare like a in-out. Hope you got the answer.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, when to use different type of abstraction language, as you mentioned that behavioral, structural,
yes,
data flow.
Yes.
When to use them?
Yeah, behavioral, it is a higher level abstraction language. So if we have our design in a form of some concept and then we want to implement using the algorithmic, then behavior abstraction level is used. Highly behavior abstraction level is used in a today's in the industry, because most of design are complex, cannot be implement using the data flow and the gate level. It make more complex in a design. And data flow, it is used when our design, we know about our design in form of Boolean equations, or how the data transfer from one register to another register. It means our specification, it ready in a form of Boolean equations, then it is easy to write a Verilog code in a data flow. And same way for the gate level, if our, as I shown, suppose I have to implement the half header, I know the structure of half header, right? Internal structure. So half header have one XOR and one AND gate. I can also use the gate level to implement the half adder if you know the internal structure. So if you can implement internal structure using the basic gates, then gate level abstraction is used, and the lowest abstraction level is a switch level where we want to design our specific circuit for the any logic. Then the it is a lowest abstraction level. We can directly use the device instead of a logic gate. So hope my answer cleared your questions.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions? Okay, let me. Now here I have taken one whatever the example we have taken for to implementation of 4-bit ripple carry. We have seen how to implement using the top-down design methodology, and here I written a test bench for it. So intention is to explain to you what is the structure of test bench. So whatever in previous we have seen, this is the structure of a design DUT, right? So DUT, this is structure of DUT. Now similarly structure of any test bench. So structure, as we know, a test bench is a top level module, right? So in a DUT, suppose our DUT, it is in half adder DUT design that we want to test. So in DUT we have a one A and B are the input port, S and C are the output port. So in a top level module, this is a top level module, that test bench or a top module. So in top module, it is only for to test the DUT. So there is no any external port. There is no any external port. So in the top level module, if you see the structure, it is a module, then the name of that module. You can specify any name. What are the rules for the to give the module name? Same rules is applicable here. But here we need not to specify any port list. So you cannot find here any port list. There is none. There is no any port list, none port list, right? So it is, there is no any port list in a top level module test bench. Second thing is, what are the DUT port? Suppose in this DUT have a 4 port. Out of this 4 port, 2 port are input. So we have to declare that 2 port as a reg to give the input. And the output port, it should have to declare as a wire, right? So this DUT is written for the 4-bit ripple carry adder, right? So let we use that ripple carry adder example, right? So let we use this, right? So let we use this example as a ripple carry adder. So in this 4-bit ripple carry adder, we have a 2 input. One input is clock and another input is reset. And we have a 1 bus output. It is then Q, right? 4-bit bus. So input are that top module have to generate input through the stimulus, that test pattern we have to apply. So that variable name and that variable we have to declare as a reg. So this both clock and reset is declared as a reg and output as a wire. We cannot vault the output. A wire is can change the value at any time. So output must be always a wire, right? So here we have to declare the output that we have to read as a wire. Then so this is step by step to write the test bench. So first step in test bench is to module and the name of module without the port list, blank port list. Then declared all the port, all the input port as a reg and the output port as a wire. Then next task is to, in a top module, it is to instantiate the DUT, right? Call the DUT. Also in a C language, we are saying the calling the function. So in a Verilog, it is called a instantiate the module, right? So we have to instantiate the design block And how to instantaneous? Instantaneous. So it is by giving the name. So we have given the ripple carry ripple carry counter as a module name. So we have to use that module name, and we have to save the program in the same folder, so it will call. And any label, then the port list, how we want to connect the top level that variable with the 4-bit adder. And also this port list we can specify using the order port list or using the named port list. Also we'll see later on, right? Then if you have any clock, so here have a clock, so we need to be generate a clock. So to generate a clock, we required one initial procedures. So through the initial, we'll assign the initial value of clock is 0. Then by using the always, so always run continuously. If we not specified any condition inside the always, so it run the continuous always statement, right? Initial one runs only the one times. That difference between initial and always procedures we'll also see when we have one slide on the initial and always procedures. So has 5 clock equal to negative of clock. That means at every 5 unit of times. Also in a Verilog we can specify what is the unit of time. By default it is a 1 nanosecond, right? So we can specify that times. We have primitives times. Through this we can specify the times. The directives we have a time. Through this we can specify the times. So here has 5, which is the 5 time units. So it stay for 5 time is 1, then 5 time is 0, then 1 and 0. It will continue because we have written inside the always procedures. Then begin another initial. It is for to give the stimulus. What input we want to give. So initial begin. First let me set the reset for the 15 hash time, right? And then we'll make the reset after. So we'll make the reset is 1 for the 15 time unit, right? And then we'll make the reset is 0 for the 180 time unit. Reset is 0 for 180 time unit. Then again the reset is 1 for the time units, and again 0, right? So these are the stimulus we want to apply. And then after the these are the some blocking statements. So it run in a sequentially. So it first for delays for 15 nanos time unit, and then assign reset is equal to 1. Then again it delay the 0. It was assigned reset to 0, and then again delays 180 nanosecond 180 time unit, and then assign the reset is equal to 1. Then after again delays with the 10 time unit and assign the reset is equal to 0, and then after the 10 time units it's finished the simulation. So this is the stimulus that we have applied. Stimulus to the design. So that stimulus is generated, and that is passed through the in a DUT, because we have a instantiate the DUT, and whatever the generated result that is observed, right, through the monitor. So through the monitor we can observe the generated result. So what is a result which is in a queue, and also we can display it similar to the C language. We have the monitor as well as the display to display on the screen. So this is any top level module structure to write how to write this top level module, right? So in a top level module, then what are the variables? Yes. Sorry, I'm not getting your voice clearly. Sorry, sir.
Hello, sir. Can I use a single range instruction for both clock and reset?
Yes, yes. If it's have a same size, then we can use. So here we can see instead of this, we can have a res, clock, comma, reset, both. Yes. Yes, it can. Sorry, sir, your voice is not getting clear.
Yes, sir, I am audible.
Yes, yes, perfect.
I am Sandeep, yes, I am Sandeep Jain, and yes, I am audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir, actually in this test bench program, actually the monitor is reserved keyword or not?
Modular is?
Monitor is reserved keyword or not?
Yes, it is
Monitor.
a reserved. Yes, yes.
Yes, it is a reserved keyword. Okay, okay, sir.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, yes. Time, monitor, all are there.
Reserved keyword.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir,
So let's see. I, okay. So
sir,
let's see some. Yes, yes,
sir, I have a doubt in previous slides, sir.
yes, yes, yes.
So, sir, as you had mentioned that in a 4-bit triple carry adder, as when we
Yes.
are designing it, we have to mention the data type as input. But in the test bench, as it is mentioned now, it is like reg. So how this conversion is done? That in the design you had mentioned it as input, but in the test bench, as it is getting out as a reg.
Yeah. In test bench, it is an we have to internally. This is a reg, and the input, that is as we can assign the external arrays to the input, right? So it is like that. We are going to have one slide on the port, and what should be its internally and what should it is out, right? So internally input must be that outer this input may be a reg or maybe a net or a wire, but internally it is a net, right? Similarly, any in-out port internally must be a reg and externally also must be a reg, and the output port, right? So output port internally may be a reg or a net means wire, and the output externally it should be always a wire,
Sir, sir, internally means in the design,
Yes.
and outer
So
and
yeah.
external
So
means the test bench.
yes. So for this DUT, for this 4-bit DUT, whatever the clock we are generating through the top module, it is a external signals coming from the top module and going inside this DUT. So it may be the reg and net, both it valid.
Okay.
And yeah, so we are going to have one slide on the port that is very important, right? Very much important and very good questions.
Yes.
So let's see some lexical convention. It is similar to C language, and also comment and everything you can see similar to the C. One thing's you not Verilog, it is a case sensitive language, and some reserved keyword. Most of all the reserved keywords are in a lower case, and it support the 4 types of number system: decimal, hex, octal, and binary. And what are the different identifier support? It support all the lowercase and uppercase alphabets and 0 to 9 underscore dollar signs, right? And in a string is specified between the 2 inverted comma, whatever you write it, and size of string is 1024 character, and the first character of identifier must not be a digit or a dollar sign. So when we have to give any port name, right? Some, if you want to create some identifier or some name of any variables, it should not be start with any digit or a dollar sign. That we have to keep in mind, as I taught. Then let's see the structure of a number in a Verilog. So structure of number, it support both the signed and unsigned number. So here it is a sign of number. If not specified, then it is an unsigned number. Then we have to specify the size of number. If it not specified, then by default it is depend on the machine, and by default it is a 32-bit size. It is default size. Default when not specified, right? And then we have to specify the base format in that base format. If the base format is not specified, then by default base format is decimal. It supports the 4 types of base format, and afterward it is the actual number that we want to assign, right? So if the size is not specified, then by default is 32-bit size. And base format for B, it is used for the binary, D it is used for the decimal, O for the octal number, H for the hexadecimal number. So let's take some example. Suppose in this number you can see 549. So here this number is start directly with the number. Here the sign is not specified, so this number is unsigned number, right? And the size is not specified, so this number will represent using the 32-bit number. If it not required 32-bit, it add the append the 0 in MSB bit. And base format is also not specified, so this number it is take as a decimal number. 549 it take in a format of decimal number. In second number, if you see this example, H dash H, so that means size is not specified, but base format is specified, right? So afterward, whatever return 8FF, it take 8FF as a decimal, as a hexadecimal. So we know each digit in hexadecimal represent an 4-bit. So it represent 8 in 4-bit, F in 4-bit, and also another F in 4-bit, right? So here actual size required to represent the 8FF, it is a 12-bit, but here the size is not specified, so it represent 8FF into a 32-bit. Second number, here base format is octal, so it take the last number in a form of octal, 765. So 7 it represent using the 3-bit, 6 also it will represent using 3-bit, 5 is also represent using 3-bit, and then it pass to the it take in, because it specified is octal. So to represent this 765 required actual 9-bit, but the size is not specified, so it take again a 32-bit number. All the MSB bit are 0. Here, if you see in the third example, 4-B11. So here 4, which is the size of number, so it specified you have to take the number in a 4-bit. Size is always in terms of bit, right? And B, so also specified whatever the number after the base format, it is in a binary. Then it is specified only the 2-bit instead of a 3-bit. So it will take a 4-B11 number as a 4-bit number in a format is it append the 0 in a MSB bit. So it is 0011. Similarly, if you have any unknowns in a Verilog.
Sir, one more question, sir. Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Sir, actually here we can write 4-B0011 here.
Yes, perfect. We can write it.
Okay, sir. Thank
No
you.
problem. We can write it. But if we not specified, if we have specified the size and we have not provided that many bits, then automatically it add that many 0 in MSB.
In the left side. Okay, sir. Thank you.
So, yes. So 3-, if you see the next example, 3-B10X, right? So it take the 3-bit and it specifically defined last LSB bit as an X. So it take as an X because in a Verilog it support a 0, logic 0, 1, unknown, and the high impedance. So it is support the 4 types of standard: 0 logic for the logic 0, 1 for the logic 1 give, and X for 2 for the unknown, and Z for the high impedance state. So here it specified the Z, so it take 10X as a number because it's 3-bit. Now in last example, if you see 5-D3, so here it is in decimal and number format is specified is 5-bit. But to represent the 3, we required actually a 2-bit to represent the 3 in a binary. But it will append 30 in MSB, and it will take 00011 5-D3. So this is some base format and easy to understand. For the negative number, before the size, we have to specify the sign of. If we specify the negative sign, then it take n and size is 8, so it take an 8-bit negative number in form of 2's complement. So it take D. D is a decimal 3, so it take the 3. 2's complement of 3. It is a number, right? Similarly for this. Now in legal is if you specified the sign before the number, not before the size, then it is an illegal specification in Verilog. So we remember for any positive and negative number has to be specified before the size, not before the number. So as I have shown the structure to specify the number, sign is first and then size, then base, and then number. Now also we can use the underscore character and question marks for easy interpretation of any long number, right? Suppose you have the 16-bit number without the underscore, and to interpret what is the digit to user friendly read, it is difficult. So we can use in between the nibble or between the that byte, we can put underscore, right? But that not create any change in the value of the number, but it make us for too easy to read the data, to understand very easily. Second thing is when we specified B'10 and we specified the 2 questions mark, right? 2 questions marks, so it will add the it is an high impedance state. So it take that data is 10ZZ. So when you put the question mark, it at that position of data it take as a Z, right? If you not put question mark, suppose if I write data is equal to 4-B10, so at that time it will assign the data, actual value of data will take as a 0010. But when I write the data is equal to 4-B10 question mark, then it will take the value of the data is equal to 10Z and Z, right? So that's the difference. In a string, it can be quoted between the 2 inverted comma. Whatever you write, it will consider as a string, and also we can display. Now this is very much important. The questions we have taken on it, it is a port. So in a Verilog, it supports the 3 port: input port, output port, and in-out port. So if we by default input, output, and in-out port, it is a types of net. Net also it is called a wire. Net or wire, right? And so if you see the DUT, this is our design. So internally, all the input port internally must be a net, right? The difference between the net in RAG is, it is very simple. Net and wire, it is just forward the data. It is used simple a jumper without the storing the data. So anytime we can change the data value of net and wire. RAG, it is store the value, and it can change whenever it have a any normally it is written inside the always procedures, in initial or always procedures. So initial or always procedure run whenever have some timing control, means have some event occurring, at that time it will run and store the new value inside the range and it hold until the next event, right? So that's the main basic difference between the net and wire. Net and wire, net wire is same things. So net wire, it is just forward the data without storing. Register is a jumper, it's forward the data as well as is hold the data. It is a holding the data. So when it's synthesized, so when we synthesize the net, when we have a net variable in a Verilog program, and when the any EDA tool synthesize the net, it will take a simple wire. It is a jumper which connecting the two output of one logic gate. If you want to assign the another, then just a connection. And when we define as a reg, it is connect as well as it synthesize a flow, right? So it is a holding the data. So input of any DUT is always must be a net, right? Because the reason is input must be a net because the input is driven by the external signal. The input is driving by the external signal, right? This signal, external signal. So we don't know when the external signal is going to take a change, when the event is occurring on the external signal. So we have to keep the input must be a types of net, otherwise it will not take the instant change. Whatever the instant change in external signal, it cannot reflect into the inside the DUT. So input port inside the DUT always a types of net. Similarly for in-out, it is a in-out, so both must be a net. Now externally, the input externally may be a reg or net, right? Because this is external signal, so we are not driving that. It is coming from the another module, so it may be next reg or net. And for the output, we can hold the output, right? DUT can hold the output if it needed. So it may be have a reg or a net type. It both the type. Yes. And externally, when we are sending the data out from the any DUT, right, any module, so here we want to change the data at any times. Whenever the change occur in output, we want to change the data at any time, so always must be a net. That's why when we are instantiate this module inside the top module in a test bench, and we are capturing the data coming from the DUT, and whatever the variable we have defined, it must be a types of wire or net. Wire and net is same thing, so it must be a types of wire. So hope it is clear. So as we explained, the port connections, it either an input through which we can read the data from that port, and input internally must be a net, and externally maybe have a reg or net. Output to the write the data on that port. So externally, internally maybe a reg and net, but externally must be that cannot be externally cannot be connected to reg. It must be a net. And in out, it for internally as well as the externally, it must be types of net. Now in a width mismatching means we are transferring the data from the 4-bit of bus to the 8-bit of bus. Then in a Verilog it's allowed. There is no any illegal. It is allowed to transfer the size mismatching, right? And it take the MSB. It is a 0 bits if you have mismatch. Now in a port connection rules. So we have a that may have some unconnected port when we are instantiate any module in a top module or any other module. We are calling the top module. Suppose we have some full adder, and suppose this is a full adder. So we know in a full adder we have a input pins. For full adder, it is one is, let's say, the A, another input is B, and third input, let's say, the carry in, right? And it's have two output. One is a sum, and another is a carry out. right? So when we insert this full header for testing, or we want to use this full header to be when we want to call to construct a binary header or like that, then when we instantiate the module, then we know the structure of instantiate the module name, whatever the module name of this, then label, and we have to specify the port list where we want to connect. So this in top module, suppose we have a one is it is internal. Suppose internal is A, internal is B, and internal generated from this top module. It is say suppose carry in, and you have a two outputs, sum out and the carry out. It's sum, sorry, it is a sum and carry out, right? So it's have a two types port connection, either in order we can connect or through port name. We'll see in the next slide. So here this sum bit, it is a order it specified for connection. So whatever the specified in a port list of the full header. So when we have returned the full header, at that time full header this module, then module name full header, and in port list suppose we have specified like that, first it's sum, and this then is carry out, and then the input A, B, and the C in, right? So it will connect in same order. So once we write in first, that will connect to the whatever the first in a port list. So first in a port list is sum, it will connect with the sum. Here one is unspecified. So here the carry out is unspecified. So it carry out is, suppose we do not want to observe or not want to connect, it is unconnected, right? So it is unconnected. A, which is third position. So in the port list, third position is A, one of the inputs. So A is connected with A, B is with the B, and C with the C. So this way it instantiate the module, right? So it is allowed in a Verilog, some port is unconnected, and that unconnected port take as an high impedance state. It is not connected anywhere. So it is an hanging terminal and considered as an high impedance state. But illegal is we cannot specify the output. So here sum is output, we cannot specify it as a res. It will give you error, right? Because output must be in a top module, output must be a types of net or types of wire. Be keep in mind, we have seen in this structure. Okay. Now there are connecting port to the external signals, right? So there are two way we can connect is order list and by giving the port name, right? So order list, as I explained, so whatever the order we have specified in a module of full header, suppose in module of full header we have specified order, whatever the order, in same order it will connect. So some will connect whatever we specified in a first position, carries connect whatever we specified in a second position, like that. So it is order list, but is not a recommended, because in a complex design where we have a large number of port, it is very difficult to see what is the port order, and we have to maintain that connection or a port order. Another is the specifying the port name. So here the connection is order is not important. So that is specification is through the dot. This is the name of the port given in the module, and this is the port through which we want to connect it, right? Suppose if you are designing using this half header, a full header, then we know that A and B of half header, it is we want to connect the A and B input of full header, so that is the connection. So this A, it is a dot A, and this is where we want to connect with externally, right? How we want to connect this module, that is. So two way, one is the order and another is through by giving the port name. As we have discussed, the res and wire to data object can understand the 0, 1, unknown, and the high impedance state. When we not specified any value to any range, it will take as an unknown. And for the wire, it take as an high impedance state if not specified. Normally, wire it is used to drive in a data flow through the assigned statements. Physical data types also, as we already discussed the range and wire difference. Range store the value and forward, and wire just the forward the value without the storing the value. So it is simply a jumper, and here is jumper which store the data. Now also we can specify that in term if you want to specify any bus, then we can specify it by specifying the size of the bus. So range, and then we have to specify the size. Suppose we want A is the 8-bit data bus, then we have to specify the size 7:0, and whatever we specified in the left side, it take as an MSB bit of that bus, right? So it is an 8-bit of registers. If you not specified the size, it is a single bit registers. Also, to design a memory in a Verilog, we can have a 2-dimensional register specifying the width as well as the size. So here it is a width, and here it is in specifying the such 1024 byte, right? This is 7:0. It is a 1 byte. So it construct a memory of 1 kilobyte, and it is a size of 8-bit, and such have a total 1024 byte. So it is construct a 1 kilobyte of memory. So syntax is range, and then width, variable name, and then the that size we have to specify. Similarly for the wire, right? Now let's understand the detail about the net and wire.
Sir, one more question, sir. One more
Yes,
question, sir.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, in the code, Verilog code, we can use net keyword in place of wire. We can
No.
use net.
Wire is a keyword.
Oh, net
And-
is not a keyword, na?
No,
Okay, sir.
net-
Oh.
It is calling like it is a types of connection. That's why port type. So that why it is a calling as a net to clearly understood. I mean,
Okay, okay. Sir.
that's why. So net and wire. So in Verilog default declaration of any variable, it is a net and wire. If we not specified in a port which is all the input and output are by default it is a wire. Input, output, and in-out by default it is an wire types, right? Not a register type. For to declare as a register, we have to implicitly declare the any variable have to work as a register. If we not declare, then it is always a net wire types. Wire does not store the value except the tri-range. We'll see one net which is a tri-range considering the capacitive effect on the net. So it can store the value. We'll see that in this next slide. And the net and wire must be driven by a gate or some continuous assignment statement. So here we can see this y1 and y2. It is driven by this gate, right? So it is net. Here the y is also driven by this OR gate, and all the input we are assigning some value. So it is also a driven, all right? So it also have some assignment or some driven by the gate. If not driven by connected to any net, suppose any net is hanging, it not driven by the input, we are not assigning to it. Also it not coming from out, it not a output of any net gate, then it consider as an high impedance. It is an like a hanging terminal. It not connected with the VDD or a ground. So it is a high impedance line. Multiple wire also we can define. Now some advanced net type. Some advanced net types. One is the tri. Tri is one of the advanced net types. Difference, it is similar, functionality is similar with the net, simple net, but just the difference is try have a multiple driver instead of single. So here in this example we can see this is y, the net y, right? It have a two driver through this tri-state and through this tri-state, right? So it is defined as a trie. So trie is the net data types but have a multiple driver. As we have seen, the tri-res can store the data, but the net simple or wired simple not store the data. So tri is again a types of wire but can store the data. And difference is only it considering a capacitive effect. So suppose the output of any node, so here it is an wire, but we know when we extracting the design, it forms some capacitance, load capacitance, so it's have a capacitive effect. So even after once we drive and leave it as an then it is store the previous value, so it can hold the data, right? So try can hold the data by considering the previous logic value through the due to the capacitive effect. There are driver state and the capacitive state. So in a driver state, when it is a drive this net, then whatever this output of logic gate that is considered, I can make it more clearly through the example of a tri-state, right? So in a tri-state, suppose this is y is defined as a tri-reg and it's due to some capacity effect. So when there is a control, we know the function truth table of a tri-reg. So whenever this is our input and this is output y and have control. So let's see the truth table of tri-reg. So whenever the control is equal to 0, input may be the anything, output it is in high impedance state, it not connected anywhere, and whenever the control is 1 and the input is 0, output is 0, when control is 1, input is 1, output is 1. So it is a tri buffer, right? Simply a tri buffer. So this is a truth table of tri buffer. But when we define the wire as a tri-reg instead of simply a wire, if you define y as a tri-reg instead of simply a wire, then it will make some change. Change is like that. So whenever it's driving, so driving means whenever control is equal to 1, at that time whatever input it will take as an output depending on whatever available here, output of this driver logic, it take that value either 1, 0 or x. But whenever control is equal to 0, means it is in a high impedance state, at that time if you define the net as a tri-reg, then it will hold the previous value instead of a high impedance state. So that the difference between a simple wire and the tri-reg. So it is holding the previous value when there is no any driving. Let's see some more advanced data types. Try 0 and try 1. So try 0, it is simply some resistive pull up and pull down. So let's understand through again this buffer, try buffer example. So when have a net driving the net, then take the value as per the driver value. But when it not driving, then if we are defined as a try 0, then take as an value is 0 instead of high impedance. And if we define the try 1, then it take the value is logic 1 instead of the that high impedance state. So let's take understood this example using the try buffer again, right? So in a try buffer, right? So if we define this y is equal to try 0, suppose if we define y is equal to try 0, then it perform like that. So whenever we will apply the clock equal to 1, at that time whatever the input, clock equal to 1, at that time whatever the input, if its input is 0, will get the output is 0. Clock equal to 1, input is 1, will get the output is equal to 1. But whenever the clock control is equal to 0, right, at that time the whatever the input, it will make the output. Here we have defined the y is a try 0, so it will take the output, it is a logic 0. Logic 0. Instead of holding the previous state in a try range, try 0 will take in an uncontrolling state, it take a logic 0. And similarly, try 1 will take, if you define y as a try 1, will take in an uncontrolling state, it take as a logic 1. So that the difference between try range, try 0, try 1, different net types. Also in a Verilog have a supply 0 and supply 1. It is used for supply 0 for the ground and supply 1 for the VDD. Also have wire or, wire ending, try or and try ending function, different wire types, right? So sometimes happens, suppose one wire, it is driving using the two different wire with the same signal strength, then it is have a confusion what the logic how to take, coming from the first or coming from the second one. So at that time, if we define, suppose this wire, if we define as an wire or is equal to y, then it take the o-ring of these two. Suppose here is x and here is y, then suppose y1, then y it will be the o-ring value of y and y1, right? So this is used to resolve when we are driving a single net by a multiple different net. So same is applicable for wire end, try or and try end. Let's see the structure of any registers that we already gone through it. Sign, range, and the list of variables that we can specify. Also, we have an integer. Integer is by nature is a type of range, and it is used to manipulate the mathematical calculations. And by default, size of integer is the 32-bit sign number, and it can specify as integer and the data types. Also have the real type. So again, the real, it is a range types, data types, and the by default value of real is 0. Like a by default value of a wire is high impedance, by default value of range is unknowns. Same way for the by default value of real data types, it is a 0. So in a real data types, we can specify a floating number or in a format of 2 into power of 10s, like that. And one important thing about the real data types is real value cannot be passed from one module to another module. Right. So when we want to pass from one module to one module, it assigned to some integer, and integer take round value of the real, and that will be passed. Vector. So in a vector, as we know the structure of vector, it is the data types range or wire, then the width of the vector. This is the width we have to specify, width of the vector, and whatever we will specify the first, it will take the MSB bit, right? We can specify the 31:0. Also we can specify the 0:31. So when we specified the 31:0, at that time it will take 31 as an MSB bit and the 0 as an LSB bit. And when we specified like 0:31 like this, then it take a 0th bit of the data bus as an MSB bit and 31st bit of the data bus as an LSB bit. Now if you want to select any particular bit from any bus, then it can select by specifying the like this, data in a square bracket, that position of that bits. Out of the 30 bit, if I want to read the 7th bit, then I can read the 7th bit data in bracket 7th, and that will assign to a bit select. Also we can select the part of a vector. So here it is an 32-bit with 32-bit size data, and out of the 32 bit, if you want to read the LSB byte, like suppose if you want to read the LSB byte, so it can be specified the range. So this data is the 32 bit size, and from this I want to read the from the 7th to 0 bit means the LSB byte, and I want to assign to some another variable. That can also possible. So we can read the part of a vector. Also for the when we specified the 0 to 7 column. Also we can select the part of variable using a variable, right? Suppose in first time we want to read the MSB byte, then the next byte, and then the LSB byte, like that. Suppose if you want to read from this 32-bit data, then it's also have provision in a Verilog. We can be select using the variable. So syntax for that, it is a variable name from this which byte we want to read, and the starting bit, it may be the variable. So we can make this starting bit as a variable. Then plus means it increment from the starting bit, colon the width from the starting bit up to how many bit we want to read. If you want to read this up to the from the 8 bit, then we have to specify 8. So it will read the one byte from the 32 bit byte data. So let's see the example. So here from this data bus, which is the 32 bit data bus, and in 32 bit data bus I want from the starting, which is the 16 bit plus and width is 8. So it will take suppose this is a 32 bit data bus, right? And this is 23 to that 16. Then here it will be the no, sorry, 32, 24, 16, 8, and 0. So suppose I want to read this particular byte. So I can specify the range. So it start from 16, right? And I want to go up to the 8 bit. This is width is 8 bit. So it will read this particular byte from this 32 bit data, and it will assign to some another variable. Similarly, negative sign, it indicate from starting, it decrement that many as per the width, it decrement that many bits and read the data. So we specified like 16 minus colon 8, right? Then it will start from 16, but it goes the below, so it will read this byte as an output instead of this byte, right? So variable from the vector, variable part also we can select. As its example, this j is a variable. So by multiplying the j into 8 into this size is 8. So in first when this for loop is run, value of j will be take the 0. So it is from 0 to 8. So it will read the first byte, right? Then in next time take the value of j is equal to 1. So it will read the second byte and so on. So we can read the byte from the large data, single bit or the byte from the vector. So we can use that variable. Memory, as we have seen the designing of the memory, the types and then the width, variable types, memory names, and then size of the memory. In the this Verilog, we have the parameter also. So parameter is used to define some constants. So in a finite state machine, if you are designing using the finite state machine and we want to define some different symbol S0, S1, S2, we can use the parameter and we can assign some combination of bit to each finite state machine. Also parameter is used when we have some generalized. Suppose I have for the generic, we can use the parameter, right, to pass that when we call that module and we want to change that, we can change in the top module. Suppose we have a one design is an AND gate, right? And we have a design AND gate with this size of AND gate up to the n, and n is defined as a parameter. And when I call this AND gate, sorry, this is y. When I call this AND gate, right, to construct more complex design. At that time, I can change the value of n. So if I want a 2-bit ending, I can make the value of n is 2 if I specified n is a parameter rather than some fixed number AND gate implementations, right? Suppose I need a 3-input AND gate, I can specify 3 that it can work as a 3-input AND gate. So it is also used for the generic purpose. Verilog have a different system task, right? To like in C language to perform some task, to display it's have a all the task is start with the dollar signs. So dollar display, it is a task to display the value, right? And dollar monitor, it's monitor the value. Dollar write to write the file. Dollar time to display the current value of the simulation time. Dollar finish to to finish the simulation when we want to end the simulation. So have different Verilog system task. As in C language, to format to display different data types. We have the D for decimal, B for binary, S for the string, and like that. Right? Verilog have some compilers, right? So like a defined, suppose if you define data width is in 8, so every time when we call as a data width, it will take 8 number. So it is some defined directive, include directive similar like in C language, and the timescale directive to specify the unit time in a simulations. So let's see the syntax of the timescale directive. So this is the reserve keyword, the timescale. Then we have to specify the reference time unit and what the precision we want, right? So timescale 1 nanosecond slash 1 picosecond. So reference time unit is a 1 nanosecond. So when I specified has 5, it take the 5 nanosecond delay, right? And 1 picosecond, it is a precision. So up to that precision, it can read the data. So let's take the 2 example to understand about the precision effect on the time scale. So first example taken the has 1.003, right? So point and precision is 1 picosecond, right? And so it can take the data up to the 0.001 effect. This data in a nanosecond. So after the 3 decimal point, it is in picosecond. So it can take up to the 1 picosecond precision. So when I write the date, the delay in as 1.003, so it will take the delay is exactly a 1.003 nanosecond. But when I specified the delay, it is has 1.0009. So this value, it is out of precision. 0.0009, it is less than this 0.001, right? Less than the 1 picosecond. So it is an out of precision. So it take the value only a 1 nanosecond. It ignore this. This is the less than the 1 picosecond. So it is ignore and take only the 1 nanosecond as an delay. So the time scale by default is 1 nanosecond oblique 1 nanosecond time scale in most of the simulator if you not specified in a test bench. Let's start to learn one by one all the abstraction level support in a Verilog. So let's start with the lowest gate level abstractions. So in a gate level abstraction, it is a structural abstraction because we are implementing the design using the predefined primitives of the Verilog. Like so, this all primitives and primitives, we can directly use that logic gate and construct. By connecting that, we can construct desired digital design. So it is a structural abstraction. Design described in terms of by connecting a different logic gate. Easy to write the code if design available in a form of logic gate netlist form of a structure, then the gate level abstraction is easy to write the code. For the large circuit, it is difficult to implement. Right? Different base gate primitive support in a Verilog are AND gate, NAND gate, and that spelling itself, it is an name of that primitive or the functions, right? So if you want to have AND is for that reserved keyword, or for the NOR, XOR, XNOR, like for buffer it is buff, and for not it is a not. So these are all the inbuilt primitive in a Verilog directly we can use. For the all the four value logic to table of all the primitives, right? So we know in a AND gate 0 is the controlling input. So one of the input of AND gate is 0. Irrespective of any other input, output is always 0. Same way for the NAND gate, controlling input is 0, but when one of the input is 0, output is 1 irrespective of other inputs. So this is self-explanatory. For the buffer, buff1 and buff0. So buff1 may it implement this, right? So whenever control signal it is equal to 1, it will connect the input to output. When the control signal is equal to 0, the input output is in high impedance state, right? And for the buffer0, it is inverting, that is try with the not, right? So when control is equal to 1, output is equal to inverted the input. Suppose here the input, so output at that time it is equal to inverted of input. And when the control is equal to 0, control is equal to 0, so it is simply a buffer, but this controlling input, it is an inverted, right? So when control is equal to 0 in this, when control is equal to 0, output is equal to input, and when control is equal to 1, output is a high impedance state. Same way for not if and not 0, so it is buffer with the not, right? Tri-state not gate. Let's see the example implementation of 1-bit full adder using the gate level abstraction. So we know full adder and its Boolean equation. Also we know how to implement the full adder internally, right? So this is the implementation of sum, which is a XORing of input 1, input 2, and the carry in. So first it's XORing of input 1 and 2, and it assigned to the X1, and then X1 is XORing with C in. So we'll get sum is the XORing of input 1, 2, and 3, and that it is a logic full adder. For the carry, it is an ending of 1 and 2, ending of 1 and 3, and ending of 2 and 3. Then it's all the product term. So it is an SOP forms, and that is our final carry. So how it can implement using the gate level abstraction? Let's see it one by one. So first of all, we have to define how many port coming out in this design. So in this full adder, there are 3 pins for input and carry in, and 2 pins for the output, sum and the carry out, right? So these are the 3 pins we want to use as input. This we want to use as an output port. So to write the Verilog code, start with the module and then give the name of module, and in bracket specified the port list. So here there are 5 port, specified the port list, right? Then out of this 5 port, which port we want to use as an input, which port is for the output. So in 1, in 2, and in 3 use as an input, and sum and carry it is used for the output, right? Now some internal is it is here we need some internal signal X1, A1, A2, A3, and O1. So let me define it as a wire, right? Now first let's implement this XOR. So it XOR, then whatever we specified the first. So first it is an output of XOR. So X1 So this is output of XOR, and what are the rest? It is considered as an input of that XOR. So it is XORing the in and into and assign the output into the X1. So that is implementation of this logic gates. Then another XOR in which sum is the output and input of that XOR is X1 and another input is Cin, right? So it is X1 and X2 is XORing, it assign the output to the sum. Then this AND gate and output of AND is A1 and input are in1 and in2. For second AND gate output we want to store in A2. So input for the second AND gate it is in1 and Cin. For the third AND gate output we want to store in A3. Input are for the second AND gate are in2 and Cin. And then after we want to OR that product term A1 and A2. So using the OR output of first OR gate O1 and input of that OR gate are A1 and A2, and for the second OR gate it is final carry out and O1 and A3 are the input. So this is simple implementation of 1-bit full adder using the gate level gate level architecture modeling, and it is easy to implement when we have a design in a form of a gate netlist. Then you can write easily a Verilog program for it. Now in this gate level netlist there are three types of delay: rise delay, fall delay and turn off delay. So let see what is the rise delay. So rise delay is a time taken to change the output from 0 to 1, from X to 1 and from X to Z to 1. So if the present output is 0 or X or Z and its next output it is a 1, then how much time is take to change from this logic 0 to logic unknown and to logic Z. Okay, and full delay. So full delay, fall delay is a time required to change the signal from logic 1 to logic 0, logic X to logic 0 and logic Z to logic 0. And turn off delay is used for the tri-state. All right, so gate output transition to the high impedance state, right? So in a tri-state, when the control signal when we remove this, when control signal is 0, this output goes to the tri-state. So it either goes to the tri-state from the 0 to high impedance, or from, if it presently is 1, then from high impedance or unknown to high impedance, right? So it is a turn off delay. Let's see in a gate level example different delay. Suppose if specified only one delay and has a phi, right? A1 out in 1 and in 2. So it is a AND gate with a 5 unit delay, and input are input 1 and input 2, and output it is output, right? So it will perform a ending of A1 and A2. Whatever result it will assign to output, but it's have a delay of 5 unit. So if we specified only 1 phi, then it is all the transition have 5 unit. Rise transition also 5 unit delay, fall transition also have 5 unit delay, and turn off transition also have a 5 unit delay. So if you specified have only one time unit, then it take that value for the rise time, fall time and the turn off time, right? If you have specified the 2 delay, 4, 5, so in that case it take 4 as a rise time. So it take the rise time, rise delay, it is a 4 time unit, fall delay it is a 5 time unit, and at that time turn off delay it is a mean of 4 and 5. So in this case 4 is a minimum. So for turn off delay it take the value of 4. right? If we specified all the 3 time, so it take the first value for the rise time, second value for the turn off time, and third value it will take for the second value for the fall time, and third value it will take for the turn off time, right? So here all the 3 delay is specified. So in this case, rise time is 3 time unit, fall time is 4 time units, and the turn off time it required the 5 time unit. So hope it's cleared the delay. When we specified the 1, then what the effect? When we specified the 2 delay, 4,5, then it take the rise time is 5, fall time is rise time is 4, fall time is 5, and turn off time is minimum of these 2. And when we specified all the 3 delay, then it's have whatever we specified, it take the rise, fall, and turn off delay. Also, each delay have its mean, typical, and max value, right? So for each rise delay, fall delay, and turn off delay can specified in terms of mean, typical, and max value. Rise in a format of mean, typical, and max. So it is have a range of delay specified from mean to max, and typical is a typical value, right? So in a fabrication, this is required to be incorporated in RTL design, because once we fabricate, it has some variation in delay, have a variation in the routing, variation in the technology used. So it's have some variation in delay. So to incorporate that effect of variation of delay, also we have to be specified in terms of mean, typical, and max. Now let's take same example and let me understand how it consider mean, max, and max. So here and it is specified only once, 3:4:5, comma is not specified. So it will take a for all types. For the rise time, it take a mean value of rise time, it is 3, and also fall time mean value is 3, also turn off time mean value is 3, and for it is a typical value, right? So it take a for rise time, fall time, and turn off time, typical value is 4, and 5 it is a turn off time, so it is also it is a max value. So maximum value is also applicable for the all rise time, fall time, and turn off time. If we specified in a 2, then first it take for the rise time, second for the fall time, and minimum of 2 it is used for the turn off time. And if specified in a 3, then separate for each rise time, fall time, and the turn off time separately specified mean, typical, and the maximum value. Next is the data flow abstraction level. So at a data flow abstraction level, it is some of higher abstraction level compared to the gate level abstraction level. So if the design is we have a in form of Boolean functions, then we can use the data flow abstraction level. It's have some continuous assignment and have in form of expression, operators, and operand. Okay. Continuous assignment statements. So in a Verilog, continuous assignment statements, it's have a net data types, drive through the net data types and through the assignment. So assign out, so out is net data types, and it is assigned ending of in1 and in2. So this may be in1 and in2 may be a res or net, but the output in which we are going to assign it must be a net data types in a continuous assignment. So when this statement is executed, so this statement is executed whenever having the event in in1 and in2, then it find the new value of the ending of e1 and e2 and will assign the new value to the output. So the continuous assignment statement is executed